a record of the delightful piece they're going to play this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, 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 your attention, please, attention, please, attention, please.
And now the moment.
We're live. Hey everyone, welcome to the pilot episode and first one of Requiem Radio. You have myself, Solo Requiem, and one of my close friends here, Hazy Dialects. He's also going to be the co-host of this one, so it's both of our brainchild right now. And right now we're just talking, sky's the limit. But
I'm Hazy Dialects. I would call myself like pretty much a avid debater. I love a passionate politics, and I met this young chap, a dope person who really has a passionate mind for politics and collecting a interesting eclectic of people. So I really do enjoy chatting with this individual, and it seemed to just make sense due to our chemistry and our interesting back and forths that we do a little bit of podcasting. So today's the pilot episode, to work out all the kinks and to like let all the slurs out before radio actually is able to confiscate this. We can cut all the fat out and ensure that no one gets doxxed. So
no, I remember what's it called? Like mainly use Twitter for a good portion of my time, and Twitter has a feature called Twitter Spaces. For people who don't know or don't use that app, and you usually meet the craziest people, and that could be a very good thing and a very bad thing. Thankfully for Hazy that day, he was a fucking Giga Chad coming in there having the most base takes. I'm like, all right, I don't agree with this guy and everything, but I like what he's saying. And then, I thought to myself after being in a few spaces ago, us, having pretty different views, but still bouncing back and forth and like actually challenging each other's ideas and stuff. I thought, you know what? Hey, why not make a shot? And I like hit him up. I was like, hey man, you want to like do a podcast? I know it sounds crazy. So it got us a bit minute here, but a lot of like tweaks and scheduling, but I'm finally glad we're able to get the first one knocked out,
Absolutely. And for me, what was unique about it, I suppose the best way to go about this is that we're going to be talking about how we met. I'm an avid user of Twitter in the sense of like I just enjoy searching out discourse and seeking out whatever someone's discussing and talking about. And I know a couple of avid debaters since to me, the idea of like really out the foundation of like your core beliefs and values is always like something I'm extremely concerned about, since it seems as though people get stumped on the most fundamental questions you should have been asking yourself if you're doing any sort of rigorous evaluations of your beliefs as to why you should hold them and the importance of holding them. I saw these guys chatting up in a Twitter space and I decided just to join, and it felt as though communication had been all but eroded, and it just kind of became a conversation of like who can get a dunk on who. And I was like, I see to my personal opinion, I saw a lot of like really intelligent people there. I saw like a lot, and and obviously debates are kind of like WWE at time periods for some people. They're like, it's about the own, it's about the pwn, get on, loser, prepare to be shot into the stratosphere where all my homies will call you an intellectual inbred. But I was like, let's have a conversation and let me try to like be as shared as possible as to what people mean.
That you steered that ship in the right direction. So I like to host like professionalized, organized debate, but that space wasn't really a room for that. That was just a chill space. And of course, I have a lot of politically charged people who are very passionate about what they say. And it's kind of like friend group A met friend group B. And then they're both like, Solo, why are you hanging out with these losers? I'm like, look, man, I don't know. It's like, it's not like that. And then I just had them arguing, and then and you're like a third party, and I was like, great, like this guy just came in my space, and then he's probably gonna think I'm a crazy person, like letting these people pop off. But you did the opposite. You're like, all right, let me hop in there and like help out and shit like that. But
yeah, because I really saw like the vision. Like it's to me, there's two operations that debate serves personally for me. Is that like either one, I have like a very strong position about something and I like believe I'm like adamantly correct about it, but also I find it interesting to do debate since like essentially for the purposes of like finding out what is the fundamentals of what someone believes is saying, and I like picking at that. So I don't believe debate sometimes is all the most productive towards that nature. But ultimately, like when I saw that occurring, I was like, I really wanted to like get to the fundamentals, as some people were saying. For a quick example of this, someone was just discussing to me about like red pill beliefs and how like a woman loves like their children, and like a man's job is to be altruistic in the sense that he is to provide for the family and to ensure his offspring comes of age. And that is the essence of what it means to be a man. And to me, it felt a bit cold in the sense of like the relationship dynamic that exists in that confine. If anything, it feels purely transactional. And I can't imagine as a man giving up all my agency as well as my resources for something that feels divorce of any sort of like emotion or like affection for the significant other that I decided to commit the rest of my life to. So I kind of prodded them on like what did he mean when he said like the sacrifice, and like could you aspire other people to do this with such a cold inflection upon like the ultimate goal as to what man like basically divorce.
Yeah, and it made me think too, like I forgot who said this, but they were talking about how debates could go in almost two directions, where someone could win the debate but they'll lose the audience. And it's like it's one of those things, and like one of the issues I like said earlier, the reason I'm doing debates online is because I'm always saying to myself, like, okay, I grew up on that, anti-sjw era stuff where it's like everyone like dunking on the be like SJW gets owned compilation, stuff like that. And then I had like this belief in my head for a long time, like, yeah, like there's no way these people are like logical or sane, they're all idiots, they're all crazy. And then time passes by, and then you see the birth of BreadTube on YouTube, which is a bunch of collective leftist people. And then they just start doing the reverse, and then they're doing everything to the left, the right, where they're clipping them, where it's like a clip of some fat dude, who's screaming at the top of his lungs that he's going to kill someone. And then like the person will be like, aha, see, this is what all right-wing people are like. And it kind of dawned on me then, and I wish it did earlier. But I'm like, all right, yeah, like a lot of these people, their styles and tactics of debate, you could argue, quote unquote, technically win the debate, but it's like you lose the audience. Why? Because everyone's gonna leave the room thinking like, wow, that guy was an asshole. Like, sure, he could like talk fast or argue quick, but it's like whatever. It's almost like Ben Shapiro debating like college kids. Basically, it's like, yeah, you beat a bunch of college kids on something, big whoop. Like, you know what I mean? It's not to sound condescending, because props to him going out there and just doing that in the first place. But at the same time, like it'd be better if like on the get go, he tried to do a more academic approach, if that makes any sense, and go against people who are like also well educated on the topic of different views. But
I get what you mean, and I think this is like the best way to like divulge as to political like origins. For me, it got really inspired. At least my fascination in terms of like politics for the most part. I think everyone sort of had like a really intense political awakening during the election phase of like Hillary Clinton and like Joe Biden, not Joe Biden, but Donald Trump. I think to the point it became so pervasive that you had people like Casey Neistat, like encouraging so many who were apolitical in nature of the content to aspire to make content directly pointing out to who they would have like voted for and what they would have done. And I saw a lot of supposedly skeptics, and I had this is before I had any like in-depth understanding of skepticism, like the skeptic community, since they were like more like atheists for the most part, like doing debunk videos on atheism. But in terms of like this more pop cultural political version of things that was like a deviation of like Gamergate, that was about journalism, and eventually became more about conservative beliefs at some point. They eventually hit their explosion in terms of popularity right around the time period when there was almost absolutely no doubt in the social zeitgeist that Donald Trump should have won. So there was a lot of people that became surprised about the status quo, since for the most part, a lot of kids at that time period had grown up with Obama, a lot of democratic like policies and ideas. So it almost became inconceivable for most people to believe that the status quo had been changing so much at that point. So to me, it became fascinating to me to understand how that had occurred and what were people saying online. I became enamored with the community of skeptic community as to the voice of like enforcing or encouraging people to be political when they didn't feel the need to. It only came to a head that I became disenfranchised with the community when it came to consistency in terms of like how should we uphold these beliefs, because at some points people would say things of the nature of, oh, it needs to be inherently political. Everyone has their own ideas and you should leave them alone to do that, correct? But at the same time, there would be people who were political, who were choosing to be political, that they were attacking for being political. So I started to realize, as you start to tease out these little ideas, like, okay, so it's not just you using the phrase, people have rights to their political opinions as a way to defend more conservative beliefs. But that's not really what broke me in terms of like what happened. I think it was Rage during the storm, or Rage after the storm, who unironically brought race realism to the community, a community that advocated sincerely that there was no racist inclination amongst all the popular peers, and for someone to unironically bring that forth, but like this time it's scientifical and also like championing the idea that she's a patriot despite the fact that she did not live in the States. Gotta love that sort of
Was this individual you said? What was their name again?
That term would have become ubiquitous.
I never heard of them before. I need to look them up afterwards. Maybe I just missed them when I don't know, like I said, I was young too.
She after this storm.
Is it kind of like Hunter Avalon, where he used to be like right wing, and then the moment he had a kid, he just turned left wing?
No. Rage of the Storm was one of the few who had a short-lived existence in the anti-SCW community, in which her first episodes were just about her like identitarianism, what it means to be a patriot, and also promoted race realism. Like she was my first exposure to race.
Yeah, I didn't even get it up until we did that whole like, what's his name, Stefan Molyneux and stuff like that. Because that guy was I don't know, he was smoking something. I was like, but what's it called? Yeah, no, for me, I'd have to say, like, my family, so we're first generation American. So most of my family's from Cuba coming over here, and all I remember as a little kid growing up, was like my grandparents or great grandparents making snarky remarks about, oh, communism, socialism, all these things like up and down the roof. And I was a little kid, I didn't know what any of these things meant. I was just like ingrained in my psyche, like anytime someone uses this word, they're, bad. And it's kind of like, almost like Red Scare fear still on them from like what they had to like go through in Cuba. And like when I got older, I tried to just like stay out of politics because I saw how much it absorbed my family, where they couldn't go one conversation without talking about it, especially my older ones. And I had an incident at high school where a kid basically, I was running track at PE, and a kid, I was around my buddy, and we heard an ambulance come by, and I couldn't tell if it was an ambulance or a cop car. And I asked him, I was like, you think that was, a cop? And the guy behind me ended up hearing that and made a post being like, oh yeah, this person Sola is like racist. He says he's going to call the cops on me. And I was like, bro, I didn't even know you were fucking behind me. Like, what do you mean? And then that was a pretty heavy stigma on me. So I thought to myself, like, I tried to pull the, like, oh, no, I like everything. He's like, no, I'm on your guys' team, but they didn't give a fuck. He's like, didn't care. It was like throwing a chunk of meat into a piranha pit, basically. Like, there was no coming out of that. So I thought to myself, fuck it. If they want to see that, then I'll give them that. And then I got really into, like, the whole Ben Shapiro videos where I just, like, copy-paste arguments and stuff like that. And then,
Yeah, Milton, I would... To add on to what you were saying, I think one thing that really makes people disadvantaged with like common parliaments in terms of like political discourse is and I don't necessarily believe everyone's doing it intentionally or maliciously, but it's that idea of like
and
testing.
In a weird way, it's kind of like the meme of like who created you, and then the responses you did. That's in a way like, because after Ben Shapiro, I got in arguments with people at like, local clubs at school. I got on like, online Instagram burner account at the age of like, 15, 14. And I remember, thinking I did so good. I was like, yeah, I just 1352 them. Like, they're never recovering from that. I was like, I literally had to I literally had the mindset, another libtard owned. They just don't know facts or statistics. And then I just realized, like, even though I believe I'm right, no one likes me. And it was like type thing, And then I was like that dawn of realization, like, okay, going back to what I said earlier, you can win a debate, but it doesn't mean shit if you don't win people over. But eventually.
Yeah, I noticed that, like, to agree with what you're saying here, I noticed that decorum plays a heavy emphasis. Like, a very logical bro for, like, a long period of time, I started to realize how much just decorum, like, plays into, like, the debate. Like, almost, like, 3 years ago, I was, like, I'm so glad I got over, like, an aggro arc I had for a while back. People were like, yeah, you're pretty decent in debates, but, like, you can't come across as, like, a jerk.
I know, and then like there's a lot of like leftist dudes who I listen to them, and when they debate, and that's kind of like what I was saying to you earlier, like the whole BreadTube arc, where it's just people who are like, "Oh, you're fucking stupid. You don't know what this like very niche, specific like 1700s philosophical term means," and then they'll like gish gallop and shotgun you like philosophical terms. And I'll listen to these debates. I'm like, okay, so this is literally a semantic game to who knows the most semantics and who could crack first, and like admit they don't know what it means. And then the other person just like basically tells the audience like, "Behold, this guy's an idiot. Why is he even on stage with me?" And it's like completely slandered. And I'm like, wow, like that was a debate. Like that was, I don't know, but
yeah, I think that's kind of hilarious because someone's like, well, if you don't know 13 pages of the most fascinating thing I actually like of like most philosophical like teachers, I honestly think they're like a rare breed. There's some people who I think have like genuine literature like interest and abilities to engage in a way that's like fulfilling, as in they just don't reiterate a page or an excerpt from a book of philosophy. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't really tell me anything about your understanding of the literature that you just read to me. You're like, do you know Chomsky? And like, okay, say that. Let's even accept that if I don't, let's just like explain to me your position while using Chomsky's readings. Like, don't just like use the barrier of inaccessibility as the way to like hold that like over someone's head. And I'm glad I never did that, but I thought it was like really.
I don't remind me. You called someone out on that because you were in our group chat a while ago. We had a communist guy in there, and then someone asked them like a question, and then the communists were like LARP, LOL, read theory, and then they sent like a PDF file. Yeah, they sent a PDF file like a 300-page book. He's like, your answer is in here, and then you're like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and I was like laughing at that because I was like, if it was anyone else but Hazy to call him out in that bullshit, he would have just been like, LOL, another rightoid owned. But I was like, dude, come on, like,
in any situation, like in actual academics and actual literature and like history, or any teacher, if you told them just read a book, they would have just failed you.
Imagine writing an essay like, and then it's still like botched and shit, and your teacher like, where the fuck are you getting these sources? You're like, LOL, you should read a book, like, teacher. Then they'd be like, okay, that's cute, F, and then you just failed the class.
Yes. In any other circumstance, they would just fail your ass. Like, all right, so you're failing. If anything, the sourcing in that nature demonstrates to me that you do not understand what you read. Even if, let's say that you did read it, to me, all of you told me is that I didn't understand anything I read. Because if you're just relying on, by default, me come to the same conclusions or agreeing with it, because even in philosophy, there's a implicit buy-in that is required, like, for example, libertarianism requiring the you to believe that it is true that exists in every man, you know? Like everyone can espouse to the same accolades and achievements. You have to believe in like the fundamental of the everyman. You know what I mean? So like, let's say if I reject that everyman, like, is your point made for you? Like, you just lost the debate. Like, it all hinges on the idea that I read what you cited me and I agree. What if I don't?
Yeah, it's like I don't agree with your presuppositions. So it's like, what's the point of this type thing? And I don't know. I always joke around. It's like, why I don't really argue anymore. Because I used to when I got on Twitter, because I used to have a lot of friends that are like really communist. And I'd have fun arguing with them like that. Because when I first saw them, it was a huge culture shock. Because I thought, how could anyone be part of an ideology so evil that my family's nonstop been telling me about since a child? And then I'd have to go through the weeds. Because at first it was like, LOL, your family deserved it. They were probably rich. I'm like, you don't even know my family. Like, why are you saying like horrible things like that? And then other ones would be like, oh, all capitalists get the gulag or, you know, get hung. And I'm like, all right, these people are stupid. But to give them credit, there were some people who were actually serious and like willing to engage a conversation, and not in like a bad faith way, but in a good faith way. So how I always see bad faith and good faith is pretty simple. Bad faith means every argument they bring up about your point is going to be a straw man. Good faith means every argument they're going to bring up about your point is a steel man, where it's the most charitable point given, basically. As in, they're not suspecting you as being malicious. They're like, okay, let's take your argument at your strongest and let's go from here. That's a good faith argument. Well, like I said, bad faith is let's take your argument at the weakest and I'll keep going on here. And that's something that's like always see a lot. But
I try to do that. That's an interesting perspective on what it means to be good faith or bad faith. I just want to like quickly wrap up.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Like getting onto that thing. In terms of the skeptic community, I eventually found BreadTube, and they were like more like I was like, yes, the prevalence of bread as a leftist, this pleases me. Just I started to slurp up the juices. But one of the moments that really like spoke to me was a video made by Big Joe discussing the Red Pill movie, and it was the idea that like one of the excerpts was basically talking about I had a big debate about like pedophilia, and I think that the excerpt of that he chose for the end of his video, where he essentially implies that if Red Pillers had it their way, they would essentially legalize pedophilia. And not watching the Red Pill movie in of itself, I had understood the argument, but then I realized how much that one segment was kind of misrepresented, and I didn't appreciate that. So, like again, you it shows little seeds of trust is like how like video essays might not have the biggest body of work, but I think that culturally speaking, these waves occur. Like the most unhinged individuals, when the unimpeded, are allowed to have a microphone. And then I believe that the skeptic community served as like, hey, like let's wrangle people in. Let's Todd wrangle for a little bit of time. And then BreadTube was basically like, hey, let's Todd wrangle these people coming in, because currently they're saying a lot of crazy stuff. Like like when Mouthy Buddha was making videos that were excellent and pretty decent, and then he was like, I'm gonna still man the Jake the JQ. I'm like, all right, you're kind of losing me, but I'm gonna listen. And then he provides like one of the most schizo posts I've ever seen in my time.
And it comes on stage wearing a tinfoil hat. He has like a boot on him or some shit like that. This crazy motherfucker.
And he's like, oh no, I'm just providing a still man. And like this, like the rebuttal segment of his video is only a minute long. While the video, mind you, I believe like 15 or 18 minutes long, is like the majority of that video is like literally providing reasons as to why the JQ makes sense. I'm like, I don't know if you think that's a still I don't know how
he really formatted his video like, okay, so here's all the strong things. Honestly, it's pretty solid. I can't disagree with it. Okay, my rebuttal, I got nothing. It's just, I don't personally believe it, but it's a solid argument. I'm like, bro, what? What is that? That's not a steel man rebuttal.
I don't know who told you that who told you the definition of what a steel man is, but I even proportionally speaking, Mouthy Buddha was one of the people I thought was in terms of video essays was, I think, very, again, charismatic in that way of like being able to convince an audience from this very calm and like intonation, really being very, very, very easily able to discuss a subject matter without. I don't know. I think sometimes essayists can give a sense of authority through this like very calm, level-headed like way of expressing an idea. But again, I think, culturally speaking, that's how a lot of these things happen. And even before then, my political journey, I had digested a lot of BreadTube. I was very much encouraged by these content creators to basically like get more politically active than I ever was, and I had an entire Twitter account devoted to that. It had around 800 followers for a time being, and where we deviated, account. I self-deleted it. I had my robot on suicide watch. I had someone who had information that could lead to my arrest. Oh my. No.
I understand what you mean. Like, there's been times where I would There's been times where I'd be in some group chats and I get like really wasted or something like that. This is like a long time ago. I don't really do it so much anymore. And I just posted like a face pic by accident, and then like the next day I wake up like, oh crap, like, and then I'm like, please Lord, don't let any of these people hate me in the future. But
yeah, that's the thing that's like, that's why I enjoy the disconnect I've always had with the internet, is that like, some people can love and trust and be like the greatest homies you've ever met in your entire life, but like let one fight break out and like, fuck this guy, I'm flicking you.
And that's what gets annoying, because people always, I hear people joke about like anons on like, you know, Twitter, social media, like my account or your account, and then they're like, oh, if you're so proud of what you're saying, why don't you show your face? And then they're like, oh yeah, just show your IP while you're at it too, and your address. And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that, man. And then
like, get this man fired, like shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reason I'm not doing that shit is not because I don't have enough confidence in my own beliefs. I don't trust people out there. All it takes is one crazy motherfucker to like just find everything, like make some bullshit lie, and then I just gotta go in damage control. Like he just disappears, and you see that all the time.
The definition of excellent argument, however, and then it's just your IP.
Yeah, it's just IP address and what's it called? I was laughing. What's up?
The deletion happened as a byproduct of the Cat Black and Vosh situation, where I felt as though, yeah, Vosh was totally in the was not in the wrong in the situation, since he wanted to have a conversation with Cat Black and really was just trying to discuss how he didn't believe that black people are a monolith, or you should just by default listen to black people, or like the idea that like black people's conversations or penance was impregnable by like white experiences, which I just never agreed with. But I think this came to like a head during this discourse, in which Voss basically just explained that he doesn't believe that you should just listen to black people's experiences just by default, because then people like Candace Owens, who believes people like me, black Democrat, is like on the Democratic plantation. So I was like, I don't agree. I agree with this with him. And even the weird speculation about his genitalia, or talking about like it wasn't that sexually satisfying or gratifying. It was just weird remarks like that I just didn't appreciate. And I brought this up, and basically my followers, and for some reason, this is now listen to what I said here. I want you to infer. I want you to use your 2000 IQ here and infer. Yes, what did I get cancer for when I said this? I said the fact of the matter that this woman, I said the fact that this individual, who's politically very advantageous and very effective in terms of their ability to produce syllogisms that people can compassionately understand and basically empathize with, would result to like physical attacks about someone's appearance. Understanding that there are social taboos as a leftist that you cannot entertain, equally understanding how you would be socially decried for behaviors of that nature. I think that it's bad for us to abuse these elements, especially the speculation about someone's sexual private part in the public sphere, even if you believe that their behaviors are wrong or uncalled for in a stream that happened 6 months ago. Even if, because on one hand, we understand that Voss was just talking about sometimes people have like this fetish of like racism and like they entertain it, but we know that specifically in a situation there is no coincidence or misunderstanding as to who she's referring to here, who happens to be Vosh, and she's talking about his genitalia in his lack of sexual prowess in a larger scale of this nature. And I just believe that this to be honestly overstepping boundaries, especially being someone who's working in the same political spheres with the same political aspirations. With all that being said, imagine what I got canceled for.
Was it the sexual orientation part, the genitalia?
Nope, I got canceled for transphobia.
Bro, what? Bro, where? Where in that statement was transphobia? Bro, people be making shit up now.
I woke up to like 80 notifications. I was like, what did I do? What did I even?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my account to put like the most like milquetoast political opinion, and then the next day like you were canceled for, you know, I don't know, like Mardi Gras phobia. I'm like, what the fuck's Mardi Gras phobia? Like, where is that in this statement? Like, I don't even know what that word means.
The most innocuous
People just be making up phobias.
The most innocuous tweets
yeah.
do you, and you're like, I didn't even think this is.
Nah, for real. I've had some tweets on my page where I thought, like, this is it. You know, I'm gonna go to bed and wake up, no Twitter tomorrow, and then I'm still going through. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then it'll be like a really small tweet like that, like put as a joke, and then people are like, wow, you're a fucking asshole. Why would you put that? I'm like, bro, what? Like, I remember one I did that I was just lost and baffled on. It was a joke where it was like some like I think it was Amy Schumer. She's like Amy Schumer, like a female comedian, is very unlikable, and she came forward like, yeah, I went from straight to non-binary, and then I kind of like copy pasted a joke that Dave Chappelle said where he's like, you know, ugly or unfunny female comedians always come out as non-binary to just get more clout, basically. And I like paraphrased and copied like a Dave Chappelle quote. And then immediately people are like, man, Solo, you're a piece of shit. What the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, bro, what? Like, it's a joke. Like, no. And then he was like, you know, railing into me. And then I literally had a guy tell me to go kill myself just from that post. I'm like, bro, ain't no way. If Dave Chappelle said this shit, you'd be laughing. But I say it and it's a big no-no.
I think it's funny that some people can be like, you know, this joke was so insensitive to the struggles and day-to-day that some NBs might exist with. And I think that you're really, really diluting the suffrage that those people go on a regular basis to a joke. You're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Kill yourself. How do you conclude by telling me to kill myself? I just don't get it.
It's like that, I don't know if you're into like the fighting universe, so like, you know, Tekken or, you know, like the competitive scene, basically. There's a individual called Low Tier Fighter, and I'm sure anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you've seen someone have a really bad take and underneath it is a picture of an African American man with like a little fro with lightning going around him, and his eyes are white.
He's the
like he's the guy who made the meme like you should go kill yourself, because he infamously went on like a 5-minute rant in the most obnoxious detail, being like, you keep coming back to me, but I keep bodying you. You serve no purpose in life. You know what? It'd be better if you just killed yourself.
Kill yourself now. You should kill yourself now. And you're looking for nothing. And you some zero proof. Kill yourself now. You should kill yourself now. And you're looking for nothing. You should kill yourself now.
I think he was playing like a 14-year-old kid on that game, and I was like, Christ, man. Like, he's just a kid.
It's just so. You know what makes that even more hilarious is the fact that he's like, it's a legendary rap. He said, "I'm gonna keep sealing up my walls. You're gonna keep coming back because you keep smelling the syrup, you bitch ass nigga."
I was like, "Ain't no way."
He was done that day. He said, "Your life serves no purpose. You should kill you."
Yeah, you serve no purpose. You should kill yourself now. I felt the force off of that one. I was like, God damn. I love seeing. I'm really into Dungeons and Dragons, and we have like a small little group, I guess, like group chat. And someone posted a video of him, but he had like a little wizard hat on and a wizard beard. And it was the same format, but instead of like, you know, it was like, you should cast lightning on yourself now. It was like, you serve no mana. Why don't you give some of that stuff to the other wizards? It was like, all you're going to be doing is cleaning my alchemy. And I'm like, bro, ain't no way.
I have to read this to you.
But,
tell me what you think about this this meme format, this mimetic comment.
All right, it's a very deep and esoteric lore meme.
I believe Low-Tier God examining the utility of humanitarian incremental support towards a utopia. Thus, those who serve as agitators in all walks of life are against and serve ultimately to hinder us in every conceivable capacity. Basically, they're talking about how in the utility of humanitarian goals, it is incremental to supporting a utopia. Agitators serve as a hindrance to society. Believing in this fundamentally in all of its physical makeup, they are far more serviceable in the greater schemes of society and non-existence. Thus, proposing they take their own life is the only way they can act as a sort of recourse for their folly. Do you know what this was posted under? A video called Low-Tier God, Suicide, Philosophy, and the Ethics of Killing Yourself. Now.
Jeez, made like a philosophical point.
Like someone literally.
Oh God, yeah, I love how.
Someone literally Somebody
What's up? Sorry, go ahead.
Took Low Tier God's rant and was trying to find what philosophical teachings were more in line with that rant.
Oh gosh.
It's the most amazing shitpost I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm so mad right now, like, going back to the fighting thing. For people who don't know, the main king of all fighting games, whether that be Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Super Smash Bros., is this motherfucker called Sonic or something like that.
Absolutely insane.
And he's a fucking... He is literally autistic and a furry, and he just dominates the competition. Like, no one can even rival him. And I'm like, it's not fair. Like, you just have this kid, like, show up in a tournament wearing, like, this big, goofy hat, and then I'm like, no way. And he just, like, mops the floor of everyone. He gets his controllers, like, next tournament. I'm like, okay, like, I don't understand
how.
Is
that, like, usually, someone is, like, dominant in a sphere in, like, one particular game, that they refine their skills to the point where they're deities amongst one particular game, and that is through eons of reading the ancient arts of how to like tech throws. But this is not the particular case with Sonic Fox. No, rather he started at Injustice, did his thing, went to another game, Mortal Kombat X, proceeded to do his thing there, went to another game like Skullgirls, did his thing there. I'm like, what is this created character? What's happening here? Who in a what test tube baby has like gone awry and is just beating everyone's ass here?
Yeah, no, he's built different. He is him. He's just built different.
Like,
but
and somebody I thought was kind of funny. Somebody was trying to point out how Sonic Fox was like, oh, he lost like the DBZ tournament, and everyone's trying to rub it in his face. I'm like, bro, I don't think there exists another person who's good at this many games at one time simultaneously. I don't think there exists.
Yeah, they don't know how hard it is. Like, and people think like, oh, you can play one fighting game, you can play them all. That's kind of true for like basic mechanic shit. But past that, all games have their like unique quirks and shit you gotta learn if you want to actually be good at it. You know what I mean?
There are certain techniques you have to refine just to be good. Like a back.
I try to say I'm good at like Mortal Kombat 10 and like go over to like Super Smash Bros. And think like, oh, I'm hot shit, you know. When there's a guy who only plays Super Smash Bros. There and he's like juggles my ass or something and like beats me.
I do enjoy that the typical attire of a Smash Bros. Player is just like almost homeless, but not really. I do enjoy that, no matter what it is.
Oh my god, I remember going to one of those tournaments once, and I wasn't to play, just like because like I had a buddy invite me out because he was playing. He's like, "Yeah, man, come out." And he's a pretty normal dude. He's a bit on the chubby side, but I'm like, "All right, sure, man." Holy, I thought I was coming to like the local beluga convention. Like I've never seen so many badasses in my life. Like I'm like, no, they were so pale and like they reached a point of like obesity where their forehead was fat. I didn't even know it was humanly possible to have literal fat accumulate on your forehead. And then I was like, bro, ain't no way these people are like this. Out here, like, no deodorant, it smelled horrible. And then I literally was only able to stay in there for like 10 minutes with my buddy because he played like one game. And then he's playing against this other dude. The whole game, all he hears, I look over, and his opponent's like sweating like crazy. Like, literally, I see pit stains. First game, mind you. And then right when we beat him, this fat little troll goes, yeah! It's like, screaming, and everyone's looking at him weird. And then I was like, is that it? And then my buddy's like, yeah, I lost, better luck next time. And I was like, you good if we go now? I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, bro, what the fuck did you bring me into? Like,
to me, one of the funniest things about this Smash community, and I genuinely, but I mean this, is that people come from all walks of life and travel from miles away just to be at this epicenter of skill and tournament, is that no one considers daily hygiene like an absolute. It's a more of a recommendation.
The most cutthroat tournaments I've ever seen in my life has to be Tekken. 100% Tekken.
Tekken's just
it is insane, yeah. Because it's always like, yeah, no, that's literally, it's just dominated by Koreans and like Japanese people. Like, no, I'm not even saying it to be stereotypical. If you literally look at the chart since the very birth of Tekken, every like main tournament winner has been like hosting Wong or something like that. I'm like, bro, ain't no way another one. It's like this tiny little Asian dude, and then I'm like, okay, like I guess my kids can't compete. Like they birthed the meme of when you see the Korean letters over someone's username, that's like GG, just uninstall. Like you lost. Like perfect, yeah.
it comes to the Shinryu. It's really that moment of, oh shit, I'm doing pretty good. I got a streak going on, and then you see Asian lads like, ah shit. Well, let's go out.
Yeah. No, I remember Tekken 7. I was a goat playing King, and he was basically like a Lucha Lord character. It's really good at grappling, and Tekken is like a little dopamine rush. They have a little score basically being like, you're on a 2-player win streak. Keep going. So it's like hyping you up to keep playing into this addiction. And then you're like sitting there like, oh man, you know, I gotta keep chasing that dragon. I gotta keep going. I'm 5 games in. I'm like, okay, I got this. And I just see squiggle lines like on the screen. And it's like someone else playing like the most meta character ever. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Man just railed me. I was like, I can't do anything. It's just I can't compete.
Playing online. But I played Soul Calibur. I played Tekken. I played Street Fighter. I played Mortal Kombat. I played Skullgirls, and I'm currently playing Dead or Alive.
You played Dead or Alive at all?
Dead or Alive too. The only game I never really got all that into was Guilty Gear, because when I got online, I just got touched. I felt like I needed Chris Hansen nearby me. I'm like, all right, I can't. Like some games get.
Guilty Gear makes me uncomfortable. That shit, I'm sorry, I'm in the same boat as you, Hazy. I cannot play that game. It's just, I feel weird and dirty. I'm like, I don't like this.
I need to emphasize what I mean when I say touched. I mean, like, there's some games where it's invigorating to like see the complexities that are usually by veterans who are on the online spheres and the online scapes, and you see how good you can become, and that is an inspiration of itself. Guilty Gear is like when you get touched in that game, you're like, all right, this is just you're good in such a way that I can't even comprehend. Like I don't know how I got beaten that badly. Like
it is like string combo your ass.
Yes,
like a what's it 0 to 100 combo move.
Especially the last Guilty Gear I played was two different dimensions. Like you could jump between the first dimension, the front and the second, something in the nature of a Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm game. But they kept jumping on the other side, hitting me, other side hitting me, other side hitting. I'm like, I don't get it. I just this is more than I can devote my time to doing. But altogether, I love playing those games. I recently came back to Mortal Kombat X because it's the best Mortal Kombat in my personal opinion. Just to absolutely.
Oh, very basic.
As soon as they
opinion. Let's go.
One, I was like, yeah, there's like 3 butter combos and nothing really else. So like experimentation was what made the game so amazing. Like you could genuinely create your own, like the MacGyvering aspect of it all. Like, oh shit, I could do this. Like, oh, maybe I can do this sort of combo. It was that fascination, and especially with everyone having like 3 different like variations you could play as, and you could. This was just an amazing game, and they really stifled that in the Mortal Kombat 11. And I have no idea why they hate Kotal Kahn, because my guy was done absolutely the filthiest.
Oh my god! Don't even get me started on more. They brought him back just to get his ass whooped and disrespected. Like. My one gripe that Mortal Kombat's been doing recently, story-wise, is like, let's say Mortal Kombat X, my only gripe. One, the main villain, Shinnok, who's like this basically nigh omnipotent deity, who's like the son of like some really powerful creator, shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm about to... Yeah, and then no, this motherfucker, at the very beginning of the game, gets his ass handed to him by like a character who's not even like a main character. Like, he's Johnny Cage, basically. He's not, like, the main guy, but he whoops him. I'm like, okay, like, he beat him. I guess, you know, the excuse was, like, that's him when he was weak, yada yada. The entire storyline, Shinnok is not in the game until the very end. And then Shinnok's like, oh, I'm at full power. No one could stop me. And then you have, like, Johnny Cage's daughter, who's, like, a rookie, whoop his ass and stop him. I'm just like, so he just gets disrespected twice. Like, he doesn't do anything. Like, at least in Mortal Kombat 9, you had, like, Shao Kahn actually fucking people up. Snapped, Snapped, what's his name? The guy with the spinning hat? I always forget his name. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, I always get mixed up. Yeah, Kung Lao. He just broke his neck. He got, what's her name? His, like, wife. The chick with the hair that grabs people and she screams. Who? Yeah, Sindel, like, in Mortal Kombat 9, kills literally more than half the cast, like, in one thing. I'm like, shit, like, this really is Mortal Kombat, where at the end of the story, of the main cast is just
And
dead. You don't know who's the main guy or who's not, who's gonna
really
live.
a semblance of
But
strength and to make because Shao Kahn was given such a good demonstration in the game that only the chosen Dragon Warrior could really defeat him. You're like, okay, that makes sense because Kotal Kahn has his child in servitude to him and basically in captivity because she cannot defeat him. He defeated Onaga, like a little dragon emperor. So, in terms of scaling, I'm sorry, what now?
you heard he's rumored to be coming back in the next game? Onaga? He's rumored to be coming back as the main boss in the newest Mortal Kombat game to drop in.
Shao Kahn, not only did they make him fucking shit
I would like
in Mortal Kombat like 11, I'm like, this is just, I don't care about the taunts. You just guys have just made him. There's no way you're gonna get any of this off unless you're just given armor, which they did in Mortal Kombat 9, which I have no idea why they didn't do in this game, but okay. But to offset like how basically limited in his moveset he was, the thing that made him interesting is that you couldn't just walk up and beat him up. So when he had Katana do just that, it's like, are we just forgetting like Legacy Acts and how this is supposed to be understood? This is like having Oli beat up the Undertaker. It's like, are we just not?
Yeah. Yeah, like you don't just do that. And especially that was the whole point of Shao Kahn, is that people in the early days of his game, he was absolutely broken, and then they were like, yeah, we did it on purpose. He's supposed to be hard. He's supposed to be like, actual difficult. But yeah, not impossible. That was the whole point. He was the big bad boss at the end of the game. And then the later games, they shit on him and all of his legacy. Like, yeah, he's just like a throwaway, Jabba character. He gets his ass handed, basically. Like, they did that shit to Reptile, too. That pissed me off. But they're like, Reptile's just a bitch in the background. When I'm like, no, and that's what pisses me off. Like, in the old lore, like, Reptile was Shang Tsung's personal bodyguard. And he even said at the ending that he was so powerful, he's able to defeat Shang Tsung. And I thought that's fucking dope. Like, wow, you got a new ninja that's been in the background watching everything, strong enough to whoop Shang Tsung's ass and everyone else's ass, and he just sits there, like he's just loyal.
Low-key.
And I thought it's so cool. And then you make him like a stupid idiot, like a Jabba, basically. And I'm like, all right, cool.
It's the same thing that happened with Kano. I'm just like,
yeah, I'd agree on that. I like that one a lot.
The merc with a mouth. Wait a minute, that's Deadpool. But beyond that, I just thought it was so fucking weird that he's constantly the go-to guy to assassinate somebody, and all he does is get his ass. I'm like, bro, who keeps you employed? Who is hiring you?
Because like he's hired you as a bodyguard.
I just don't understand that. Like, who?
Oh god.
And also how they like had like the I thought Mortal Kombat X was
who's someone
okay of a game, but like granted, Mortal Kombat X wasn't the greatest in terms of storyline, but it didn't fuck up nowhere near the levels that Mortal Kombat 11 did.
It was leagues ahead. It was leagues ahead the best of game mechanics. I felt like it played the most smooth. It had the most unique variations. It actually felt like it took skill to learn. It wasn't something where like Mortal Kombat 11 was, where it was just like, yeah, there's shit characters that are unplayable and they're good ones. Like Mortal Kombat X, I'd say outside of Bo Raichu,
yes.
Every character you could
like,
play and get really good at. Yeah. Like, it's more balanced to the tier list, you know what I mean? It's like, while Mortal Kombat 11, it's like, before tier list even starts, people are like, okay, Shao Kahn, F tier, Noob Saibot, S tier, and then they just keep doing that, like, without even blinking. Because it's so painfully obvious how unbalanced the characters are. And that's what, to me, ruins a fighting game, Like,
even Kotal Kahn, you can make him work in online play. You can make a lot of those characters work, whether it's Kano, whether it's Devore, whether it's Melina, Katana, even the new characters he had added, like Jackie Briggs or Cassie Cage or Takeda. These are like really interesting characters. Kenshi was one of my favorites, especially his shadow variation. Yes, and to
he's
me,
coming
one
back
of the things that
in
also made the
A1. I'm so glad they're bringing him back.
I was like, yes, I'm so happy to see like evil like Raiden, and then the man was turned into Sandman, bring me your dreams. I'm like, god damn it, that's the second time you killed my nigga right after turning him evil. Stop. it's such a cool design, and we
You're
never
like, yeah,
see that
cool.
wrong in the narrative.
Oh gosh.
Absolutely, and they even advertise the game with
Yeah, Evil
like,
Raiden was
in the
pretty
first
fucking
scene,
dope.
He goes by the Elder Gods, and then I'm like, why does? Okay, two things.
It was even in the trailer, the release trailer for the fucking game, where it's him going up against Scorpion, and then it's playing 21 Savage in the background. That track they put on there. It was a pretty fucking hype trailer, but the game just didn't amount to anything really, in my opinion.
Especially with like Kodo Khan, and I was just like, it's like the cotton. I hate them. I'm like, I don't remember him being a racist, but okay, I was that a part of his like he's just a garbage. Here's the thing. Every game has taken some like Aztecian design, and I fucking love those characters when they ever include them. But they just made Kodo Khan completely unlikable. Just absolutely everything about him is just.
And that's what pisses me off, because in the comic book, he's actually a fucking goat. Like, there's a whole comic series released that fills you into the events between 10 and 11. He fucking goes up against Goro while he has like a chip of like the amulet of Shinnok. Which, mind you, for people who don't know, this thing is basically like having the Chaos Emeralds. Like, you're just broken with them. So you have Goro, an already intimidating fighter, with this broken ability. And not only was Kodo Khan able to whoop his ass, he cut off all 4 of his fucking arms and left him there.
Yeah.
He didn't even kill him. He's like, no, I'm not even going to kill you. And he's walked away and just like humiliated him. And then like Lizzie was talking about, you have him in like Mortal Kombat 11 and he's just like an absolute like, contrarian from like, it's almost like Jekyll and Hyde. Like, dude, you're pretty fucking dope in like MK10. Like, what's going on now? Like MK11.
None of them were prettier than you. And I'm like, what? I'm sorry. Maybe I missed something, but when were these guys like dating? I don't. Like,
they really forced that relationship, the whole Jade Kodo Khan thing. I don't know why they did that. Like, I don't know.
Mush mouth people. Hold on now. I can't let that happen. Even if they're like literally.
I was like, I could dig it in Aztec God that I've seen rip people's heart out and drink their blood. No, I can't date a racist. This ain't gonna work. And then I'm like, bro, what?
I don't know. I don't.
Like, Jade, what's going on?
When this man literally said, "Oh, I can present your heads as a gift to Shinnok," I'm like, wow, bro, this man is. He's supposed to be the new leader of Outworld, and his ability to buckle under pressure is absolutely admirable. Like, wow, dude, grade A leader material, really.
No, we gonna talk about the most hated person ever. My personal hated, and I think community agrees on this too. Fucking Devora. I hate her with a passion. Despise her even. I don't want her in any more games ever. And if God had the ability to, I wish he would smite down whoever had the idea of creating that character. It's like annihilate. Like, I am right now calling upon divine invention to smite this motherfucker for making that bullshit character. Like, I hate her so much. It's just, she kills off all the main good characters. She pisses the community off because she's not likable. Like, she killed Baraka. She killed fucking Melina. And the most disrespectful way, too. She, like, puked, like, fucking larvae and spiders in her fucking mouth, like that, Melina's. And, like, fatality her ass by that. I'm like, Melina's a literal cotton. Her mouth is nothing but teeth. Anyone with a fucking brain knows, hey, even though she has her arms tied behind her back, why not go around the mouth area where it's literally just a jagged saw show?
If you were gonna die here, why not just... You could have just done that, but they just decided... By the way, I also believe that Mortal Kombat X's Melina design is probably one of the best designs for the character, beyond the clear just pornography show that he had for Deception. But the Devora, for me, felt like a clear case of developer favoritism. Like, they even attempted to retcon her as... There's nothing wrong with having new characters. I just hate when they try to retcon a character as always existing. Like, alright, you do realize when you have her meet OG Raiden and OG Liu Kang and Kung Lao, you're like, okay, they've encountered these characters one time before, but yet none of the texts, none of the stories at that point had ever mentioned a Devora. So I hate that level of retconning when nothing prior to this has ever mentioned Devorah's character, and it felt like they were really inserting her to have a significance in the narrative in a way that didn't make sense for most like fans of the narrative, of the story of Mortal Kombat as a story. It truly felt like favoritism. Like someone really was like did everything, made the storyline bend backwards to kill a fan favorite like Scorpion off. I mean, he was Hanzo Hasashi, but at that point, I really didn't like his character. Like, I just didn't like his fit. I didn't like his design.
I liked Hanzo Hasashi. I liked the redemption arc.
Yeah, like
using like the design. Yeah, I can see that. Like, I got what they were trying to go for. Because you can't be like an angry demon spirit forever, you know. Like
the Revenant,
Quan Chi's dead, everything like that. He's freed from being a Revenant.
Like,
so I thought that was interesting.
Also, Quan Chi used to be like, remember Mortal Kombat Gold?
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat Gold was like one of the games that actually made him feel like an ethereal being of chaos and absolute anarchy. But they made him a jobber, just like other villains within the narrative. So it's hard to really feel any sort of danger from him existing. Yeah, it was. That
was pretty funny watching him get his nuts stomped out though by Sonya Blade. That shit was kind of funny.
But yeah, yes sir.
I
think he has
Warlock. Quan Chi is pretty broken.
I just think that in terms of narratively speaking, there was so many problems I had with Mortal Kombat X, especially with like characters just walking off with characters. Like instead of just Sector killing them, he like took them as hostages when he really shouldn't have, and had no motivation as to do so. Or the fact that Sonya Blade lectures Cassie Cage for leaving her behind without watching the footage or having she's like, I watched the footage. I'm like, so did you think it was important to have done that before you start lecturing your daughter about seeing her mother die? You know, really? Yeah, okay.
It's jeez. That just gives me a headache thinking about the story. I'm sorry. It's just you're reminding me now. I hadn't played the storyline in so long, and then you reminding me just recertifying my beliefs of how absolute dog shit the story was. I'm just thinking here like, damn, was it really that bad? I'm like, yeah, Hazy's right. It was that bad.
Anyway, the biggest problem I had with it was that Shinnok was a child of another elder god, and Kronika was an elder god. And this is the problem with this narrative, is that she's an elder god of time, and she brought back some allies that she could use to aid her course of action. But she also brought back OG Liu Kang, OG Raiden. I'm like, but why? If you have control over, you're a deity of time, why are you bringing back all these other characters? There's just no reason to do so.
I think the reason she needed to bring back Liu Kang was because she needed him to betray Raiden to continue the cycle so she wins. But I agree, I don't see the point of her bringing back, the other one, I keep forgetting his name. Spinny hat guy.
And the thing is about this is that
I don't know why I keep forgetting his name for some reason. My little brother plays that character the most too.
A lot of supers from the Elder Gods feel like injustice is like ultimate, but to me, one of the weirdest moments that happened in the series is like, oh, you couldn't have foreseen this. I'm like, but you literally control time. How did you not notice? Couldn't you just rewind back to the moment before Raiden and Liu Kang fuse and stop that from happening? I don't. Nothing. That's the problem with giving somebody time manipulation abilities. There's nothing that's stopping them from doing that.
I can't recall a single piece of media where the whole time manipulation shit actually went well and it was consistent and that didn't leave giant gaping plot holes. Yeah, actually, let me take it back. I'd say Back to the Future, but that's kind of stretching it. But besides Back to the Future, I can't think of any piece of media or video game where time travel, and then it worked type thing where it didn't leave me questioning but isn't this a giant flaw? And it leads to a bootstrap paradox, who invented what first type thing.
The Za world, until they decided that Jotaro also has the ability to thwart. I'm like, it feels like a cop out. I don't know if he had to go on vacation soon, but it felt like such. I love the fight. I feel like that part was such a, like, for me,
it was hyped.
Was so great.
I was like,
it felt as though there was so many instances in which you get paid off by paying attention to the most minute details. But here it was just like, also Jotaro has the ability to use the Zo word as well. Like, I guess.
I want them to. So I know it's not canon.
Yeah.
But I really want them because Araki's currently writing his final part, is what people were suspecting. I want him to bring back, at least finish up this part and then bring up, Eyes Over Heaven, Dio, or some shit like that. Because I know it's non-canon, it's only in the video game, but it's such a unique concept and idea of a character, and it'd be nice to see, the accumulation of, all of Araki's, stories come together in one thing.
I thought that narratively,
I think
that something that could have easily explained why Jotaro had the ability to use time manipulation. All he had to do was say that the stand that Dio was using is actually one of Jonathan's abilities, and him getting that body also gave him access to that stand. Therefore, the blood relation is why there are similarities between the stands. They could have easily gone with that rather than it just being a pure coincidence thing. It just felt so contrived.
Why didn't
it be pure coincidence?
That makes sense.
Stands. I'm like, I guess. I guess.
Really quick, correct me on this, but did Dio ever use any of his vampire abilities in part 3? Because I remember seeing the drawbacks, he couldn't go outside at night or during day. But I was just thinking to myself, doesn't he have laser eyes and shit like that? He used.
You could have unaround.
So many times throughout the fight, I thought, if you use this, they don't know you have it. That's your trump card. You could have won. I don't know.
Introducing it.
Yeah, Araki forgot moment. I think I told you this before, but my all-time favorite part, Steel Ball Run. There's a famous scene called Who Shot Johnny? It's a chapter where you have all the main characters in this main plaza area, basically. And throughout every panel, it shows a clock, and it shows the exact time on it. And then out of nowhere, the main character, Johnny, is on the floor bleeding with a bunch of bullet holes in him. And his friend, Jiro Zappelli, is looking around okay, who shot Johnny? And he sees a bunch of different suspects. He asks them, they all give a very slightly different story. And it's supposed to be this big, this is, the main villain's stand power. Only issue we have here, though, when the Japanese version was translated over to English, it's not on printed paper yet, it's on online. They butchered the time, thus making it make no sense. So even if you were the most Sherlock Holmes motherfucker out there, if you looked at the panels, there were typos in the time. They literally had Japanese to English typos. So it wouldn't have made logical sense at all to be okay, so that's how his ability works. It makes sense now. And people were just scratching their heads what the fuck? But it wasn't until later, someone who's a Japanese American student or some shit like that, he was able to actually demonstrate all right, the original one says this, here's a typo here, and people were oh, now it makes sense.
Holy shit, is an insane amount of things. And I'm sorry, the initial idea is so fascinating, but in terms of how it would work in a fight and how many rules you would have to be you had to keep continuously in mind for, I couldn't. It would be absolute narrative hell to try to write for that character, to try to write keeping all the rules in mind for how it functions. It's he just decides I'm just gonna recount how this works because holy shit.
Yeah, no. D4C is absolutely broken as a character, and I'd say he's probably the third strongest stand in all of the JoJo's universe. Because my top 3 would be Wonder of You, Golden Experience, Requiem, followed by D4C. That's my top 3 strongest stands, I'd say. Yeah, but Wonder of You is just, it's,
no,
I don't know, it's baffling to me, but I know you're reading it, so I don't want to spoil it for you, because I remember you said that. Oh, wait, have you caught up to it, or are you still reading?
The thing,
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I'm not gonna mention what you're gonna read. What Wonder Review does and go, absolutely no fucking way. This is the villain stand. Like, there's no way. It's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's so broken. But
of, like, speech bubbles. I'm like, bro, you are kidding. You are kidding. All right, wait, hold on.
My stand ability works on every Tuesday at 12 o'clock when the grass is green at this certain location when my opponent says this word. This is my stand. I'm like, what? Like, it has to be so specific and niche.
So circumstantial.
I'm like, okay, this is like non-applicable at all.
In terms of the logic and reasoning, I would have been dead trying to figure out how it works. No matter how many times that dragon stand of luck is explained to me, I'm like, I don't get it, and I don't think I'll.
I honestly feel like I'm getting gaslit, and anyone that tells me they get it, there's gaslighting me. I simply refuse to believe anyone understands it. Because I'm not going to be treated like I'm so Neanderthal that doesn't understand this shit. I'm like, no, it's no one understands. It's not just me. Like, you guys are all lying. Like, everyone's lying.
No way that this is being explained properly. Like, it doesn't. The way it's explained, the destination of location shows probabilistically nature of like what you're destined. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, what? I had to rewind it. I literally had to rewind the entire episode and go, no, I still don't understand. I give up. I give up. If that was my part, like, you win. I don't understand what you said.
Yeah. I still can't believe no one called out Araki for having a fucking monkey have a stand ability that is an entire cruise ship.
What a stand would look like.
Just like a cargo ship and Star Wars Crusaders.
Okay, I have no expectations. I'm going to assume nothing at this point. I'm going to assume everything is a stand user at this point. Especially a rapist. The monkey was like a horrible rapist.
It's so crazy. Yeah? I like the meme where it's like, oh yeah, I hate that guy so much. He's creepy. I wish they brought,
funniest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah. They're like, what's your stand ability? Oh, I'm a rapist. Dio's like, all right, you're on my team. Get in here. I'm like, bro, no way. Like, I can just imagine Dio like interviewing the people that were like supposed to stop the Star Wars Crusaders. And then you have that one Macnag chick, and he's like, what's your ability? She's like, oh, I could turn guys gay. And then he's like, all right, you're on my team, let's go. I'm like, bro, what is this shit? Like,
then just pretend to be a sun in the sky and make people think that they're in a desert. It's like, yeah, this is just Dio trolling. And even in his first appearance, after not seeing him for such a long time, all he does to Polnareff is just take him downstairs. I'm like, this nigga just loves trolling. This man is this guy is a troll.
Yeah, he could have killed him right there. You're right. I didn't think. No, he really could have just killed him right there, but he just. So for people who don't know, Dio, his ability is that he could basically stop time for 6 seconds.
And Polnareff.
In the show, the very first scene where he's introduced to one of the members of the people trying to stop him, his name's was it Polnareff?
He keeps gaslighting him about whether or not he stepped up the stairs to approach him.
Yeah, he's up a flight of stairs, menacingly staring down at this motherfucker, and Dio's like, come up the stairs and fight me then. And then Polnareff's like all shaky, like, alright, I could do this. And then he blinks and he didn't move. And he's like, wait, am I still going up the stairs? I'm not even moving. Dio's like, I'm waiting, come on. It's like just a gaslight.
I mean, my man's was an L himself.
Okay, he didn't have to one shot Kakyoin like that. That shit was dirty. Like, I'm like, you could troll, yeah, like you could troll with one guy, but the moment you see Kakyoin, he's like, nah, I'm putting a hole in your chest, and it's just what he did. I'm like, bro, not my boy.
Emu Splash never misses. What a completely useless technique he kept continuously using.
He was cool little motivational on team, I guess. He's a fun little gag character. Emerald Splash.
Oh
No, my
goodness,
favorite.
That's the best episode.
My favorite part in the entire Star Wars Crusaders one was when they're gambling against Darby. That shit made me die. Where he literally is sitting there and he's like, I bet this. And he's like, what are you wagering? He's like, I'm wagering you tell me Dio's secret. And this dude's so freaked out, like, no way. And then he's like, I'm betting my mother's soul. I'm literally betting my mother's entity is a soul, or her very essence, on the table. And then he's sitting there, like, you know, mentally psyched out, the guy gambling with him, like, oh shit, like,
Yeah,
am I gonna call him
That's
on
what makes
this?
it
Am
so
I gonna call him
good.
in poker?
It's
He
what
looks
makes this
up.
episode so good is that
Jotaro found a way,
is
just
a
pulled a
very
cigarette out of
silent,
nowhere and just started smoking it at the
Archie,
table. I was like, no way he's that
his
confident.
external appearance, since he never really emoted that much. And to this point in the narrative, I had no understanding as to why he was the quintessential character. But in terms of battle, this sort of stoic and completely stilled off emotional nature of him made him very intriguing as an enigma in terms of combat, not really knowing what he was thinking about. Or was he overwhelmed in the fight? Was he unsure? It was always that sort of idea of waiting what his next move was to really get an idea of where the fight was heading. It really edged you when you see. But in that poker game, his character, like baseline characteristics, really flourish in this moment, because him being an enigma facial wise and like emotional wise, you couldn't really call him on his bluff. And especially towards the earliest part of the series, where he's getting things outside of the prison and bringing them in for entertainment, you think to yourself, hey, as a viewer, it's been ingrained into you that there's a likelihood that he did change out his cards. That there's a guy telling him what he has, but maybe he did because he has a cigarette and, you know, start planning moves so fast. So all of these things are quite very much a likelihood. So when you find out that it's all just a ruse, it's so satisfying as an episode. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Part 3 is not that great though. I stand by that.
Yeah, basically for the audience, definitely watch
Yeah.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
It's
100%
annoying that, like, people keep
recommend.
saying
Yeah,
like,
let's
there's like
go.
meme amongst the community like you
Battle
gotta get to the
Tendency
stands, gotta get to the
and
stands,
Snowball
gotta
Run's
get to
my
the stands.
favorite.
Like,
Those two.
first off, like Jonathan and Joseph are like amazing main characters, and even like at that point, part 2 was my favorite. But I feel like part 3 is kind of overrated. It's yeah, in terms of like the part 1 and part 2, part 3 is extremely repetitious.
I still think it's good, but it's not like the holy gospel that people say it is. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I feel
Oh, yeah,
like
absolutely.
every single one of
think,
Araki's
in terms of
chapter,
creating
the next
stands
one
to
just gets better and better and better.
you never have
Like,
to worry about power creep in the narrative.
I don't know. It's always an
It's-
interesting
it's,
dynamic, if you will.
based around like the unique stand abilities, and that idea in of itself is just great. But I would say that like still in terms of like really good storytelling, I think I still love Joseph Joestar. I thought he was underutilized in Stardust Crusaders, and even though they already killed him off once, having Adolf dying again was just like ain't no way. That was trash. That was completely Basuda. I was just
Yeah,
like,
they couldn't have
wait,
killed him.
are you
They
kidding?
couldn't have killed him a
I-
second
I
time.
could not
Like, I
believe
thought
they
that
just
was.
brought. It was the same thing with Kaguya.
I don't know.
I feel like Kaguya as a character was just, in terms of design choices and all that, he's cool. But in terms of contribution to the narrative, this man came back, took an L, came back again, took an L again. I'm like, and his whole contribution. Oh yeah. Do you know that Araki actually wanted Whole Horse?
I really wish
had
Whole
planned
Horse
for
would have
Whole Horse to
joined
join
the group.
but
Star-
felt like he
That would have
had
been
too
actually
many
dope. I would have
similarities
liked
to
that.
Polnareff to be a distinguishing enough like personality among the crew. So that was his reasoning as to why he didn't include him. But when he held a gun to his head, that shit was funny as fuck.
Nah. Yeah, I like how Dio's like, you got some balls. I'm not
That
even gonna
made
kill you. I
Dio
just
so-
respect you for being that
uh,
crazy. And he just leaves him alone in a room. He's like, yeah, I
Okay,
know you
so
have a gun to my head,
religiously speaking,
and I know you're not
in
gonna
terms
pull the
of, like,
trigger though.
things I thought about
I was like, damn.
how Dio was presented, like, the face of God. Like, people thought of him as a deity, and, like, you can't glaze upon the face of God. And I thought, like, I don't know, that's in terms of subtle symbolism. I think that was, like, inferred from, like, how he was perceived from that point. Like, everyone who basically aligned themselves with him perceived him as a god, so they couldn't see his face, and that was why he was so enigmatic towards the earliest parts of Stardust Crusaders. Yes.
No one can see his face. Yeah, you only saw his face at the very end when he was gonna fight.
Poochie is a very interesting character.
What was I
and
gonna
have
say?
A video essay that I plan on
Moving on to,
making about
I guess,
Poochie,
later down the
because I think
timeline.
there's a inherent,
You want
like,
to touch on Poochie
cognitive dissonance
at all?
about, like, how
For a
he
villain?
focuses within the narrative. I also believe that it's fascinating how Jolene is her storyline is probably far more interconnected than any other storyline prior to this. Naturally, it's understandable that most people like realize that as a JoJo's like storyline, since JoJo's is all about lineage. And I think that having a character whose powers are literally about the strings really speaks to the interconnectivity of the JoJo world. You know what I mean? Absolutely, yo, yes, yes.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking about what's it called. One of my first tattoos is getting a Joestar tattoo on my back.
That they decided to make the Joestar tattoo.
Yeah, if I ever do, I'll send you a
something
picture
that
of just
was
my back with a
introduced in
Joestar
part
tattoo
3.
on it. Like, yeah,
But
what's up?
You know what's fascinating about it? It's the most clever retcon in the narrative. Because it's at a place where you could be forgiven for not noticing it. Like you really go, huh? Have they always had this? Like, I guess they have. Like,
How so?
It's a tattoo in a place that no one would look.
I like, there's this meme I gotta find, but it shows like the final battle between Poochie and the whole gang going against him when he had Made in Heaven, the stand, and it said all of this would not happen if a carriage rider in the 1800s didn't trip on roll the rock.
That meme now.
Like none of this would have happened just because one guy's action. I'm like, oh jeez.
The whole universe didn't think. The whole universe being
Yeah, no, for real. It's like none of that would have happened.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Nah, really quick. You okay if we go back to Tekken? Because there's one thing I wanted to mention on that.
It rings bells.
So, are you familiar with a gentleman known as Lil Majin? At all?
I've watched some Tekken tournaments where they had Bushido Brown dominating. Oh,
He's
shit!
the king, basically.
Yo, can I just say something that's kind of funny to me? Just a little bit. Okay, so you brought up like South Koreans being a big deal in the fighting sphere and when it came to Tekken, but when it came to Mortal Kombat, like if you watch the ESU, I was like, there was a lot of black people. I'm like, Tekken was just like it was just that game for us. That's how.
No, and it's funny as fuck because that's why I want to get into the story. So, the story of this guy, Lil Majin, was that during his time period, I think it was like 2016, he was at a fair, like a festival with his girlfriend, and he saw like a convention booth where they were playing Tekken. He played Tekken like 4 and 5, and Tekken 7 just dropped, and he's like, all right, I'll just play around. And he ended up playing, he's like actually pretty good, just naturally good. He had a natural talent for it, for like combinations. And then he ended up winning like this really small tournament. And he thought, okay, that's fun, time to go back to more mundane life. He got approached by someone who was like one of these big like higher ups and managers, like, hey, you actually play, a character known as King, which is a dude I main, whose main primary things is submissions and stuff like that, and suplexes and grappling. No one plays these on like meta levels. He's not a meta character. So he's like, yeah, you'd be interesting. Like, I'd like to see you back on like a higher stage or platform. So like, all right. So thus birthed this dude grinding on Tekken 7.
Yeah.
Being, mind you, at this time, he was the only like prominent black dude in the tournament. Because in the tournaments, it was all just Asian motherfuckers. Like all like the Koreans and Japanese. They were running that shit. They were dominating the scene, and then they were just shitting on America. Like there was no American competitors that even brushed top 3 during Tekken. And for people listening, Tekken, I would argue, is the biggest fighting game out there on an international scale. Tekken is the League of Legends of fighting games, if that makes any sense. But so here comes this guy. He gets on a tournament. He starts working his way up. He actually gets pretty good, and then he gets tickets, invite over to, I think, to play in Canada or something like that. And that's a really big tournament. And he ended up playing, and then he won that tournament and beat like a dude who was supposed to be a big runner-up. And that's when like he got global attention. Preceding this event to happen, he was able to get invited over to the JDCR. The Evo 2018 tournament. So this is a good 2 years after Tekken came out, and he's like up the top basically. He has to get his ass over across the globe to play in a global stage against this guy called JDCR is the dude's name. He's a small Korean dude. This guy, I kid you not, has reigned king over Tekken for like 5 years. No one even gets close to beating him. His combos are nigh omnipotent, and he plays a certain character called like Dragnavoff, who is the meta of characters basically. And then you have this dude coming in here, mind you, not Korean, but just like this chill, like normal black dude walking in there, and then he ended up getting like death threats and stuff, saying like, you need to drop out of this tournament, you're not welcome here. But he literally just was like, nah, fuck that shit, full send. So he ended up playing the tournament, made it all the way up, and the final round was between him, Lil Majin, versus JDCR. First round, JDCR basically beat his ass. Second round, he was getting closer, but he beat him again. The score is 2-0. All JDCR needs, a Korean dude, to retain his title is win one more time. But something else happened. In the audience, you heard a chant. First it was slow, and then it began to build up more and more and more. USA, USA, USA. He found a way to not only beat him that next round, so now it's 2-1, but he also was able to get him close, like blow to blow in the second round 2-2, and he barely beat him on the second round. So now the score is even 2-2. So JDCR, the reigning champion, went from being like, jokingly smuck, being like, oh yeah, what's this American doing on my stage, to now being irate and pissed off that why is this guy beating me. The final round, only time I can recall seeing this in tournament history, and you can look up the video online, is Majin versus JDCR Tekken 7 at Evo 2018. He found a way to hit the legendary 20 move combo in his ass and win the game with that. And the whole time, the whole arena and stadium was just screaming USA. And with that, he reigned king over Tekken. So he was playing a character called King, and he was the king, and he dethroned, the whole Eastern world, basically, saying like, yeah, this is USA right here, baby. This is the most patriotic shit in a fighting game I've ever seen. I absolutely love it. Like, that just made me proud to be an American. Like, yeah, fuck yeah, you don't fuck with us. We got our own problems, we whoop your ass fighting games.
Little to any imprint in that scene, so to see someone get that close and literally, like, suplex one of the reigning champions and one of the best out there to ever do it when it comes to for that person he was going against, it's the equivalent of Nintendo's Smash's Five Gods, like beating one of them. Absolutely do too. And I was gonna say that the most time I always love it when someone takes a really
holy shit. Yeah, I love fighting games so much.
Defies expectations of like where they can go.
What's up? Sorry.
I knew that Jax wasn't going to get that far in the LSEU, the Mortal Kombat X, LS. Yeah, like those tournaments. I knew he wasn't going to get that far in the top 8. Still, it was really nice to see
Jax,
because Jax is just a fan favorite. Like, especially his soup, his grapple variation, which I was even surprised that he was playing it. So to see him get that far, and also one of my favorite stories of Mortal Kombat is the 13-0 story. Was the Legend Perfect Legend decided to get So, Perfect Legend was basically one of the mainstays within Mortal Kombat X. Very much a recognizable figure. And his figure was Kung Lao.
Oh no!
I definitely enjoyed playing him, but they like a very energetic uprise with a signature style for wearing furry attire. The person we mentioned earlier here. Sonic Fox was basically doing a lot of shit talking online, and they had agreed to an arrangement. Personally, to me, one of my favorite players is Scarra, and his Sonya Blade is absolutely immaculate. But beyond that, I would say that these two basically decided to meet up, to shut one each other up, to finally have a definitive say as to who is the winner when it comes to all of this. So they finally met up. They did their shit talking, but Sonic Fox decides to play another character. He doesn't play his main, which at the time period was Aaron Black. He decided to play Katana. And Katana was such a bad situation for him that he was getting flawless victories and even getting brutalities in the majority of the fights they were going through. This became so brutal. This became such a wash. This became such a waterboarding moment that they didn't even call him Perfect Legend throughout it. They were calling him Carl. It was so bad they started calling him by his government. They're like, Carl. I'm like, it's bad when they just drop all the they dropped everything. It was just like, you can't go out like this. So not only did these fights get so terrible that they actually got up to 10 wins, 100% on Sonic Fox's side of the matter, mind you, and he had completely demolished him, not even getting him one win. He had gotten around in some instances, but a win on his board, absolutely nothing. So after that had occurred, Sonic Fox told him that he would get him to shut up. He would make him eat his own words. And champion in that moment, everyone basically celebrated Sonic Fox's win. But hold on now. You see, sometimes with humiliation comes a development for kinks. Masochism was on the plate for our man Perfect Legend here. His excuse he had stated at this moment was, well, I was ready to fight your Aaron Black. I didn't come here to fight your Katana. So they set up another match. That statement alone, he decided to go against him the first of 3. And he lost all 3 rounds. Every single one he lost. And only
and mind you, this is after he went 0-10, where Legend lost 10 games in a row against this dude. Yeah, that's just embarrassing at that point. It's legendary. I feel bad because I see that dude on Twitter, and even now, there's still people who type under in the comment section, 13-0, 13-0 for him, where he just got washed. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Now he's got no excuse. What's the excuse now? What's the excuse for you losing 3 more times? Like, all right, yeah. Me personally,
yeah, nah, he needed to retire after that. He was done. Like, if that was me, I don't know, I wouldn't have tolerated that. I would have I would have called a hit on him.
It's a little bit of.
He would have got a little delivery in the mail, if you know what I mean. Let's just, in Minecraft, that's what would happen, basically.
My most legendary line from this entire thing was
like, that's just saying if that was me, I wouldn't have taken that disrespect.
Doesn't mean I was defeated.
Yeah, R.I.P. Ted. Yeah.
Vance had a reality-breaking lose. He had to stop apostolating.
Nah, you were defeated. Your career ended. Like it was over. Like.
Yes.
Are you familiar with a gentleman on Super Smash Bros. Called Hungry Box? Someone brought a crab, a literal crab, in a tournament while he was on stage in the middle of a game and threw a crab at him. Like, just full on, like a little big crab, just chucked it at him from the audience at him. To me, I'm just baffled. You can look it up on YouTube. There's literally a video of him just, locked in playing, and then you see this little reddish orange tint fly across the screen. He looks down, astonished, and picks it up. And he has a crab in his hands. And he's like cussing out the audience.
And he had defeated the gods to get as far. This is my thing. Somebody really brought a whole crab and like cooked and all, and just decided.
No, it was dirty as hell, but it worked. I don't blame him.
Where did you get this, sir? Where did you?
Well, that bitch wasn't even cooked. That was raw. It was just a dead crab. Thought that was evil. Really quick, out of the games coming out in the future, we have Mortal Kombat 1,
absolutely,
Tekken 8. Yes. We just had Street Fighter 6 drop,
to be a fan.
And it's rumored that a new
really
Soul Calibur, I think 7's going to be coming out. So, like, fighting games, I would argue, are in their golden age right now. This is like peak.
I'm the best at the barbecue. When everybody is just trying to play video games for recreational purposes, that's me. I'm the sweat that comes out of nowhere and makes it fun for nobody. Just with the level. Exactly. No self-esteem wins. No self-esteem points. You gotta earn.
Oh yeah, points. Yeah. I will make it fun. I was the type of big brother that I never let him win. Nuh-uh. I'm like, you want to win, you gotta earn it. Just crush this. Jeez. No, I kind of caught back at me and bit me in the ass because these newer games, like, I don't understand them at all. Like, it's so mechanically fast. I'm not talking about fighting games. I'm talking about, like, shooters, like new Call of Duties and shit like that. Like, here's a perfect prime example, Halo. I've always been a very big Halo fan. I love the lore. I love the video games. I legendaried every single fucking level on Halo. I can't lasso. My dick isn't that big. Sorry.
No, I get what you mean.
But, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I'm 1, 2, and 3, although they're different games that have slightly different change, is the same mechanical game, if that makes any sense. 4 was a little bit different. It was a bit of a tweak, but it was still playable. But once I hit 5, like, all my skills did not translate over. It was like a whole different genre of a game. It wasn't Halo anymore. So you had these young kids, all the Fortnite kids and shit like that, that do nothing but stay home all day and play video games 8 hours a day. Just absolutely shatter. Just shatter. And I'm like, alright, I can't do anything. I can't. And that's what really killed it for me.
Like, entities that, like, it almost is like meeting somewhere that's in this Protozoa era and then coming back into seeing like a fully evolved society. In playing Mortal Kombat X, one of the most nightmarish things to ever encounter is a Liu Kang who's doing the yin yang variation. It was just like, all right. So I just don't land. I don't get to play the game. I just have to suffer. I have to suffer some clock tower orange in the corner right now. Just
Yeah, you gotta watch your characters get juggled. But what was I gonna say? I just blanked. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you. I'm thinking about wrapping up at 12 tonight. So
I think really, I think.
I just want to go into talk more about the podcast. Like what are our visions for the future? What do we want to do with this?
In any sickness or flu that exists within society, there needs to be a checkup, a good evaluation or ability to see where people are grounded at any given time. Because to remedy something, you gotta really have an idea of where everyone stands. And I think that having guests in the way that you can cultivate them and the way you can collect individuals really helps the discourse and for people to see where they're at. And I think, from my personal opinion, I think a resurgence and a podcast like this really helps people not only take people's political beliefs, but also the way we talk about like just games, recreational like entertainment. That nature really helps humanitize people, because there's two factors that really hurts people's ability to sympathize and even come to agreement in discourse. Inability to see people as human beings, to almost like mystify them in a nature, like leftists are not working for the poor. They're trying to destroy society and humanity in a way of like basically creating this conversion of society to be estrogen mandated. Or conservatives aren't truly those the political party of like virtuous like religiosity or the devotion to God. That they're actually just using it as a proxy for virtuous natures and to decry other people while berating them in a way that is akin to 4chan while holding moral superiority. I think that with these with the Overton window often creating epicenters where people can have the most friends and extreme opinions, I think a sit down of something in the nature of Solar's Radio really puts to bed a lot of misconceptions. And I think a resurgence of the compassion that people have for the political beliefs and the good intentions that they prescribe to when espousing these beliefs is really necessary in discourse, or at the very least humanizing people so we have a better understanding as to where they're coming from could lead to that as well. So that's why I think
Hey, this ain't Solar Radio. This is Requiem Radio. This is me and you. This isn't my show, man. Like,
I do appreciate
like, I honestly don't think I'd ever be able to do it if it wasn't for you helping me. I'm just not gonna hold a conversation like that. And I'm like, all right, it'd be nice to get someone to help balance it out. But I've honestly, like, it was a blessing to have you be able to help out.
Reiterate the question. I'm interested in terms of the large scale of like what you do in sometimes group chats or the debates you have. What do you see Requiem Radio doing on a larger scale? As like, what would you want it to be in service of in terms of like the discourse or just entertainment and something people can just digest while doing like frivolous or like very essential activities? What would you want the ultimate cause, or what you would want?
My goal is I want to provide something that is entertaining and that I could look back proudly and say like, yes, this is my work and something that I take pride in. I would like to have a good mix between, chill, funny conversations like what we're having now, just joking about like tech and stuff, to us actually talking about serious issues in different episodes in the future. Like, I don't want it to be one of those podcasts where it's always serious gloom and doom. But I don't want it to be one of those podcasts that are like, toxic positivity, everything's just good, sunshine and rainbows. Because let's be real, it's not. Like, society isn't doing it as good as it should. But I feel like we're not as far gone where we can't engage in like productive dialogue and conversation with each other on certain issues. So yeah, if you're gonna ask me, I'd definitely say a blend. Absolutely. I want it to be, fun entertainment and enjoyable. I want it to be something people could tune in and listen to, have some laughs at, or just having it in the background listening to at work or something they could enjoy. But most of all, it's just like I said, I want it to be a product that I am proud in, basically, because like I do see this as my brainchild, and I do see you also as being like a major contributor in helping to this and like helping me pull this through and make it a reality. And like I said earlier, I cannot thank you enough for helping me on that. But I just want, yeah, that's my main vision. I want to get cool people on. I want to get fun people who's enjoyable, very knowledgeable on certain topics to give us a viewpoint perspective. That's really all I want. Like, you know, I want it to be like an ever growing thing, but
Commendable, truly. Yeah, absolutely. I flattered by the offer to be a collaboration partner on this. And even as you reached out to me, I was like, oh, dope, dude, definitely. Because I thought, because we have really good conversations, but to do something in
I always
collaboration.
thought,
of this
yeah,
nature
I saw it as a
really,
leap of faith because
really,
honestly, I was
really,
just sitting there
really,
thinking like
dope.
he's
Yeah.
probably gonna think I'm crazy. Like he's gonna be like, really? Like that's it? I'm like, yeah, man, just why not? Like, I don't know, you only live once, and I want to be able to have something like. I know this is gonna sound silly, but I want to have something where once I'm long and gone, like maybe like my great grandchildren could look back and listen to this and be like, oh, you know, that's great grandpa Solo or something like that, you know, anything like that. But hey, just in case that happens, shout out to my future children and grandchildren. You guys are awesome. Just say that now. Oh,
Shout
no,
out
I
to
don't
be a
say
future
that.
genetic did and what's up with So- Somebody just put someone black and white tents over the video and said,
It plays that like
Pacing within
it plays
to
that
not have
R&B
the
music you
choices
see at
after
the end of those movies, like,
declaration.
and he won't know his choices that he's gonna make. I'm like, oh hell no! They got the R&B track on this shit. Yeah, the gospel.
Not the gospel.
Oh, Friday is a dope movie. I love Friday so much. Oh jeez.
Friday's an amazing movie. It's actually like one of those movies. Even being in proximity to like black.
The
culture,
Boondocks
like,
is definitely something that got me to appreciate a lot of black culture and stuff like that. That I found. The Boondocks is just so funny to me. I don't know why. Like, and I remember talking about in a space once. And someone's like, you shouldn't be watching that show. You're not of African descent." And I'm like, "Damn, that's crazy." So anyway, the Boondocks, that is what I'm talking about. I gave zero fucks to like some random Karen says like, yeah, I'm just appreciating a beautiful piece of media that I find funny as hell. And it is relatable in so many levels and different things. But
You're right. I honestly don't think you should be watching the Boondocks. I'll make sure to like only if you wear dashiki while doing so. I'm willing to order you one straight off the net and make sure you're wearing.
oh my
that
gosh,
anytime
have you
you're
seen
seeing some
what's
Boondocks.
it? Is it Afro Samurai? Have you ever seen that show?
I've watched some of the early episodes, but it's such a good show. I don't know what it is. I have this particular mannerism, whereas if I
fair.
really enjoy a show, I don't want to finish it because for some reason, even no matter how good a show is, after I finish it, I feel no like some of my favorite shows, I have not returned to them in over 5 years. Like if I watch something and I really enjoy it, I don't want to rewatch it. I just want to kind of have like that. I feel no purpose of doing so. It's the same thing with video games. If I love a game really a lot, I try to not finish the like last level because for some reason in my brain, as soon as I do so, I feel no interest or intrigue to like return to the game.
Yeah, I
even if
get that.
beat it.
I learned that lesson way with Brett. That's one of my all-time favorite shows. And I remember rewatching it recently, and it was like I think the second season where he started getting money, and there was like a whole scene of him driving around a Mustang. It had the most shitty dubstep music blasting, and I was like, "Oh, that was a trendy thing that did not age well." But yeah, it's peak.
I love
It's
Breaking
peak
Bad.
fiction.
Breaking Bad is
It's up
fucking
there.
phenomenal.
Oh god.
I love how the show did such a great job of for most who don't understand Breaking Bad, it's just basically like I love the how they got to the point of like Walter White, like at its fundamental basis.
Yeah, you saw that at the very first episode too, where there was a bunch of like he's messing with his son that's crippled, and he comes to the ground, steps on them, is like how do you like it? And that was like before he was quote unquote Heisenberg, his alternate personality basically. But he's always had that little flair in him. Basically, it's a really phenomenal show. I'd recommend anyone watch it.
Like, the man was dealing with cancer, and he was going to be financially secured by a friend who, granted, had basically stolen from him. But what ruined it for him was this idea that he's being saved. Like, his wife had told him about everything, and he felt humiliated. He's like, I rather would just work on the cancer myself and work on like financially supporting myself than to ever ask for a handout. Like, this spoke down to his like narcissism, but also to like how being wronged in such a nature like really affected him. And also, my favorite line from the original OG series is "fuck you."
Yeah, he had the bushy eyebrows, the Indian worker guy. Oh, jeez.
I just love the fact that the guy was just like, "What do my eyebrows do?" He looked more offended by the fact that he pointed out his eyebrows specifically. He was like,
"Yeah, that's a phenomenal show. I like that. I liked El Camino, and I just recently finished Better Call Saul. They're all three like phenomenal."
I saw a scene from Better Call Saul where a guy gets completely just demolished when they tell him he needs to leave, and he's like, "Okay, let's talk." Like, that scene was so insane.
It perfectly wraps and ties in the story. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd highly recommend you watch Better Call Saul. Like, they put the last season on Netflix.
Yeah, I recently finished Breaking Bad, so I sometimes try to like give myself a little bit of space between the shows, because for some reason when a show is created as a like offspring of some show, I have this obsession with comparisons or iterations of different shows. But I try to keep those things separate, to just watch them as their own separate thing. But the one thing I thought was kind of interesting about Breaking Bad as well, there's just so many quotables from the first season when he's like, "Oh, and why is he said, you see these two things, and these conduct what?" It's like, fire.
Oh yeah, magnets, bitch. Has to be my favorite line. Yeah, magnets, bitch. Like, oh yeah. No.
He said, "Yes, yo, I'm Walter White's wife."
Oh my gosh, yo. I remember seeing like this clip of like Jesse Pinkman being interviewed. I forgot the actor's name off the top of my head, but he's like, "Yeah, I was in the airport and some random dude like bumped my shoulder, and I turned around. He looked like really excited. He's like, 'Hey, I'm sorry. I know you're in a rush. You're busy, but can you FaceTime my wife really quick and call her a bitch?'" And I was like, "Bro, ain't no way!" Like, and then he was like, sure." And then his wife calls like, "Hey, bitch!" And the wife's like, "Oh my god, it's Jesse Pinkman!" And I was like, "Oh no!" Like,
you know what's funny as hell in terms of celebrities meetup?
I've not yet.
Power. So my father does like security for like a big like casino and all that. So he usually has to get guests through the back entrance and all that. So there's this character named Ghost who's like really much like the intrigue of the entire show, like the main character. It was so interesting how like my dad said this man walked up to him and had his hat over his just basically his hat so over his head that you couldn't see his face, only to see that it was the main character for Ghost. And the guy who was with him was from the Guardians of the Galaxy, Batista. Like,
let's go.
I could have. I wouldn't have. They couldn't hire me for security. I would never shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
he couldn't.
No, it's funny. I'm around Georgia, so a lot of times Georgia's nicknamed the Hollywood of the East because we do a lot of tax cuts for movie studios and companies, because California, being California, has a bunch of taxes on literally everything. So all these like Hollywood studios like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Georgia where they don't tax the holy hell out of us, and plus it got like actual good land and like there we could film at. So like it's interesting because sometimes I'll be watching a show, like I started watching The Walking Dead like recently, and my first time seeing it, mind you, and I just was like, yeah, I'll watch it when the show finishes. and I see like Marietta Street. I see these areas like that in the show. I see like certain like, you know, I guess ravines and trees and shit like that, like certain formations. I'm like, oh, I could give you a ballpark guess where it is, or sometimes I flat be like, yeah, I know where that is. Like I've been to that very location before. Like I stood where they stood. Like, and it's just so surreal because like they filmed in like I think was it 2008 they were filming The Walking Dead? Like they first started. Yeah, and it's like so surreal. Like, wow, I've actually been to that spot before. Like, and same for the Hunger Games. There's a portion of the Hunger Games that a lot of it, any woods scenes you find, they film it in Georgia. And I'm like, huh, interesting. So I'll just be in Georgia and like, you know, let's say there's a hiking trail and I'll see a location where they actually filmed at, like, you know, scenes of the Hunger Games. But my all-time favorite. Yeah, that was really creepy and surreal at the same time. Like, huh. Like, you know, Jennifer Lawrence, Katniss Everdeen was at the same spot I was. Like, that's really interesting. But my fun... No, you're good. My favorite one of all, though, was that I was at work, and my father, he worked for a railroad company, and he ended up saying, like, hey, guys, does anyone know who this is? He took a picture of a chair, and it said Robert Downey Jr. on it. And his company he was working with was filming the scene where everyone's racing through the city. It's like a little, you know, shanty town. They filmed that at the railway there. And it was just all the cast for Avengers Civil War there. And then he's like, I was like, are you serious? He doesn't know anything about Marvel. He doesn't like watch movies or anything. They're like, hey, is this guy famous? I'm like, yeah, I think he's pretty famous. Highest paying actor like out there. But hey, we should be wrapping up our first episode though. What do you think?
I think what's going to happen is they're going to find your house as soon as they hear my takes on you know, Leviticus. They're going to find my house. They're going to string me up.
Oh, wait, you got takes on Dominicans as well?
But, no, I said Leviticus.
Oh no, I thought you said Dominicans. I was about to say, oh, interesting. I was like, oh. I was like, the Cuban in me, my ears perked up. I was like, oh, slandering Dominicans. I see. This is an interesting convo.
Yeah, I got the Norman Osborn take. I got the Osborn take. You know, who's gonna clean your toilet? Who's gonna clean your toilets in a sense?
Oh god.
The fact that the follow-up to that statement of who's going to clean the toilets and then say in a sense, there's no saving that. You just got to let that one.
If Donald Trump kicks out all the Spanish people, who's going to clean your toilets? I'm like, you think all we do is clean toilets, woman? Like,
oh. And she paused too. Like this is how you know that she came from a place of like a very privileged place in the sense that she had no upbringing around anyone else, and like around her very like lucrative and like philanthropist friends. This was like a very like, oh yeah, speak queen thing to say. But like people who on the ground who like in reality, you just said that, you're like, huh, I don't know how you did it, but you ended up sounding a little bit more racist than Donald Trump and I. Like, I don't know how you did it, but it's
hey, really quick before we close up the podcast for our first episode, I was thinking to do this for guests. If they are okay and consensual with this, I was thinking about doing a little ribbing where at the end of each episode, once we interviewed them, I would say like, hey, before you go, I have, you know, some questions for you from some of your tweets or some of your XYZ, like your posts or your takes. Wanting to know if you elaborate on them. Or, you know, like, say your opinion. And when they agree, I'll just be like, okay. And I'll completely make the most batshit insane, like, take and say, like, that was something you said. Like, okay, so you tweeted here, I like it when X does X to X. And you're like, wait, what? No, I never said that. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. In denial. Next question. And then I'll just go like that and just rip them.
just start.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, so... hazy dialect. What does it mean here when you say, I only like them snow bunnies, period. Did you fall asleep when you tweeted this? And then you'd be like, well, bro, I didn't say that shit. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like very, very interesting. Next question. It was really reliable sources we got here. Like, I don't even give you time to defend yourself. Let's hop to the very next. Like, just to, like, fuck with them.
just the most like. Didn't they say you punch a
It's
teacher
like-
at an early age? I had never done that.
Yeah.
And it's the most incredulous.
Yeah,
Well, all right.
it's like-
I don't believe
It's like the
you.
most condescending, like, I don't believe you, but next question. Be like, I was here on a tweet, you once punched a retarded child. Do you want to comment on that? And then they're like, wait, what? No. I'm like, oh, yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, next question then. Just to mess with them.
All right, then. I guess. I mean, all right, but anyway, next question.
Just to fuck up. I don't know, I thought that'd be funny to add on, and I got some people. Yeah.
Actually, just to do a little trolling, the segment.
Yeah, like at the end, just to do a little trolling, break the ice. But is there any closing comments you want to add in, or anything else you want to touch on?
Follow me on YouTube as always. I'm always in the fog. I appreciate you guys for listening again to the first episode of Requiem Radio, and I'll leave you off to Soul.
Oh yeah, and likewise, I have a YouTube channel as well where I publish and host all my debates. And we're probably going to be having this podcast up on the Apple Store iTunes, and then maybe we'll have it on Spotify in the future. But that's us seeing, hey, where the road takes us. But I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode.